Welcome to episode number 24 of the Leader Equation. We're so excited that you are joining us. And today we have really special guests, two of my friends. We have Gaurav Gambhir and Kate Gledhill discussing leadership in Pennsylvania, where real estate is still considered a non-essential during the COVID crisis. And Gaurav is a serial entrepreneur, has tons of businesses. Kate's one of the owners in some of them. And so we've got a lot of fun things to talk about today. For those of you who don't know, I'm Linzee Ciprani. I'm the CEO of Ciprani Consulting. We're the top recruiting and consulting firm in the country for all things real estate. I'm here with my lovely co-host, Christy Grossman, CEO of Ops Boss Coaching, the ultimate resource for training and coaching for real estate ops bosses. And so welcome to the Leader Equation. So Gaurav and Kate, you guys have been in business together for 6 years now, going on 6 years. And walk us through, just give us a really quick overview of who you are and what businesses you're involved in.
All right, I'll go first. Yeah, because I don't want to follow you.
I love it.
So I am managing partner of the Condo shop and a partner in Rent Philadelphia and Black Label. I handle the day-to-day operations and the relationships with the agents on a day-to-day basis. And that's pretty much it.
She basically runs the show.
As you can tell.
She runs all the things.
Yeah.
She runs the show in the Condo shop. So, I think, I want to mention this is probably Kate's first live podcast of her life. So, it's exciting.
Awesome.
So we'll talk about some of the things, and we'll talk about leadership in this call as well. So I'm Gaurav Gambhir. I am owner and founding member with my other business partner Ben in almost everything that I do together. And I own the Condo shop, Rent Philly as a rental division. We have Black Label as a luxury division. I also own a property management company called TCS Management. We have an investment division called TCS Investments. We have a repair and maintenance company that we use called SNA Renovations. Then I own a market center. I'm an operating principal of one of the companies, Keller Williams franchise. We have about 450 agents. We own a title company and a couple of small other things here and there. But the reason why I'm saying all these names is that I think there's a history in how this has all come together, and I'd like to talk about, it didn't happen by coincidence, but a lot of hard work, but a lot of people who are around us. So, last year, Condo shop team did about 228 million with about 55 agents in the team. So since Kate is involved, I'm keeping numbers to the Condo shop only.
Yeah.
Love it.
Okay.
How many people do you lead across all those businesses? Since our topic is leadership today, just curious.
So Kate?
In the Condo shop and Black Label Rent Philly, there's 53 agents. And then we have a leadership team of 5 and 6, including you and Ben. So
53
Right.
in those, and then 450 in the market center, plus what, another 50?
For the other companies, I would say, so the last time I counted were 510 people that somehow I'm responsible for.
Awesome. Good frame of reference for us there.
Yeah.
Which is why you have 2 cell phones. We'll get into that. That's my favorite thing about him. But Christy, walk us through the rest of what you do, and then we'll get started.
Awesome. So if you haven't joined us before on the Leader Equation, we're here chatting with owners, founders, CEOs, entrepreneurs, and their shotgun leaders inside and outside of real estate. Today will be inside real estate. What adds to the leadership formula, what subtracts, what divides, and most importantly, what multiplies your results. And now we're going to dive into the good stuff.
All right, guys. So 7 years together. What drew you together in the beginning? How did you guys come together, and how did you start working together?
we had a mutual friend that thought that we would work well together. I had recently been laid off from my previous job, and Gaurav, his office manager at that time, had left to go and explore. Where did she go, Gaurav?
She went full time to go take care of elephants in Indonesia. So she left. She had a passion for taking care of elephants, and one day she got up and said, I think I'm going to go pursue my passion of taking care of elephants in Indonesia. And I just looked at her and said, what? and she said, well, that's what I'm going to do. But she gave me enough time to find someone else. But it was a definite time. And I started looking around, and one of our mutual friends thought we'll be a good match. So we we talked about, getting together. I have a funny story, if I may add on that one. So he called me and he said, she lives in your neighborhood. You should meet. She's looking for a transition. This is not her passion. She wants to be in the restaurant industry or a bakery industry. She's a professional baker, and that's what her passion was, opening a cafe or somewhere one day. And I said, sure, I'll meet with her, and we'll see if there's a part-time position available where she can help me out while I look for a full-time person. So as usual, I'm always late for everything in life, and I called her that I'm running late. I'm 10 minutes late, and she's in a coffee shop, and she was very nice and courteous and said, would you like some coffee? In the first meeting, you're supposed to say no. And I said, yeah, sure. Can I have it cream but no sugar?
That was supposed to be my tip off. I should have known.
So it was funny that, then I met there, and then we had a great conversation. And the deal that we made was she'll help us out for 4 months or 3 months till she finds her job, and till I find another office manager. And that was 6 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a max of 1 year. I already had like a business plan to go and start a specialty bakery, and that did not happen.
So what made you change your mind, Kate?
I got into the industry. I liked it. I liked the people, the team. I liked working with Gaurav, and I felt like I was building something, which even though it wasn't my business at the time, I still felt valued and like I was building something that was helpful to people. So
how big was it back then when, 6 years ago? What did that look like? How different was it?
I think there was only like 12 agents on the team, Gaurav, at that time.
Probably. I do remember we went back and checked. 2014, when she started, we lost $15,000 in the company. So it was not the bestest of time. We had less number of agents. We didn't have any of the other companies, any of the other companies besides the condo shop in 2014. TCS management was just getting started. So it was not the best of the time.
Really grown up together, grown up in your leadership, grown up in probably a million ways together. What's the biggest thing that's different now in your relationship than it was maybe after year one?
If I may start on this one, Kate. The first time when I met Kate and we started working, it was more of an employer-employee relationship. I still felt I was responsible for every single item in the company. I had to give her directions. I doubted a lot of things because she didn't come from a real estate industry. My job was to help her understand the industry and start thinking on a larger business level. And I sort of, being a sole proprietor at that time or with a business partner, the fear always is I can do better than the next person. And every single time when there was a doubt, it came to my mind was maybe the decisions that I have to make will probably be better decisions instead of hers because she doesn't have the experience. So I was not letting go of the control, giving it to let her run the company. And I'm a very detailed micromanager at times. So it was very challenging. Every lead had to go through me. Every expense had to go through me. I didn't give her the accounting, bank statements. It was just very near and dear to me because I felt that was my value proposition, that I had to be better at this to run the company. So from that time to now, I probably don't know what's happening in the company at times. And anybody who asks me a question, I always say, well, call Kate. So she reconciles the books, she writes the checks. There's a lot that has changed from that time to now. And there's a whole journey that went through the last 6 years.
So what did Kate do to earn that transition? Sorry, Lindsay.
No, that's perfect. That's what I was going to say.
So I would say, it's like any relationship. When you are in a relationship, you start dating first, and then maybe I've been married to my first girlfriend in my life, so I don't know the whole process, but I can think about it that you date first, or you move in for the next time, and you test the waters and see if there's a compatibility, and then there's probably a next step of life. I think that's how Kate and I went through as well. She came in more of as an office manager, then became the director of marketing, then became the director of operations, then became a partner in the business. And then we started other businesses together where we have other business partners. So it took a while to understand if she's that right person in life. It takes, and you test a lot of waters in between, test her patience, test her loyalty, integrity, hard work, work ethic. Is she compassionate? Is my vision of the company matches with her vision? And there have been other 3 or 4 people before her in the same role, and I never felt the same way. But with Kate coming in, I never had to ask her to work harder than I wanted somebody to work. her work ethic is like my work ethic. Her compassion for people is like mine. She cares about people in her team, and they trust her. So I had a fear that if I didn't connect with my team, they would leave because there was nobody else for them to relate to. I think Kate filled that void over a period of time where I think many agents in our team probably relate to her more than they do to me at this point. So that transition was her hard work. I didn't guide her. It was her personality that made it happen.
Kate, what did that look like on your side if he was a big micromanager who didn't want to let go of things? Because we hear this a lot in agent relationships. What did that look like and feel like on your side? And like, walk us through that.
In the beginning, it was fine. And then as I grew in the position, it sometimes was overwhelming, a little overbearing, and I had to be patient. But I understand working hard and proving yourself to people so they trust you. So I just did that. And then at the end of the day, he gave me the reins and trusted me. So I just think that if you put in the time and you're patient, that you'll eventually achieve your goal, which I think it worked out.
I think consistency matters, right? If when times are tough, or even when they're good, if the person continues to be consistent, it makes a difference. And Kate has always been very consistent in her, it never felt like it was a show to get extra salary or get a different position. She was always been genuine and cared. And that's what you can ask for a team member. As long as you put in the hard work and you're genuine, then the trust comes in. The biggest challenge we have as team members or leaders, or in a team like the Condo Shop, is lead generation. If your team member or partner allows you to get you out of that position so they can generate more leads and distribute the leads, which is the biggest asset that we have, I think that really was the last step, where it wasn't the money, it was the leads. So I held on to the leads for the longest time I could imagine. And then at one point I just said, you can have it and let's see how you do it. And then I started I said, you have to CC me on every email you send to every agent on every lead. And then slowly I transitioned out of that as well. So I took me a while.
Was that the moment? Like, was that when you knew that you kind of had his trust though, Kate? Like, when did you kind of see the changeover? Because honestly, I feel like I would be super frustrated with that. I'd be like, you want me to CC you on every lead?
So he kind of left, I would say, at one point. Like, he would check in, but very rarely, to go and grow TCS management. And at that time, I just took advantage of that opportunity to take control and prove myself. And I kind of just started CCing him less and less because I thought it was very busy, and he honestly didn't really need to know every mundane detail of the business. The important things I kept him CC'd on, and I think at that point he just saw that everything was running smoothly, and he stopped asking me to CC him on every single thing.
For our listeners on this on this podcast, or on this Zoom call, people always say, how do you get in that position? There's no fixed formula that how you get in that position. I always say luck favors people who are ready for the opportunity, but you have to be working on that opportunity for years. It doesn't just show up on one day as a lottery. They say the probability of you winning a lottery is 0.0000, whatever it might be, but the probability of winning a lottery if you don't buy a ticket is definitely zero. So you have to be doing certain things for you to get to that place, to earn that right of, or on that opportunity. And I think Kate was getting ready and had proven many times in the past. But listen, she has made numerous mistakes as well. It's not a la la land. She has done many things where I felt like she had made wrong decisions, and so is me. I have made so many mistakes in my life where we used to talk to each other and thought it was the worst decision that she was making and the worst decision that I was making. So it's just growing together, but believing in the person, right? And that is a key. Do you believe in that person to build that relationship? And that was interesting for in our relationship that grew as business partners.
And are you both willing to learn from one another? Because if you can't disagree and then learn from one another, then your relationship's not going to work.
So what does it look like when you guys disagree? Like, what is that conversation? Is that a real conversation? An in-person conversation?
If you ask Morgan, who's our transaction manager in the office, who sits right next to her, she'll say, "Mom and Dad are fighting again today." So it's really in my mind, I call her my work wife. It's a challenge to always agree on. It's a challenge not to disagree. And when that happens, it's just like fighting and yelling and disagreements and I take it or leave it conversations. This is not going to work for me conversations. You may not know more than I do. Your ego is coming into play in this decision making. Your lack of experience is talking. Like we say things, and because I think the unfortunate part is that once you're building that relationship, a business relationship, more into a friendship, that friendship allows you to say and do things differently than other people. So that's what happened between us, that we became really good confidants and friends as well over growing in our relationship of being business partners, that it became very easy to have those kind of conversations. And I'm okay with her yelling at me, and I don't think she's okay with me yelling at her at times, but it happens.
It's fine. We yell at each other. It's actually probably very inappropriate, not professional.
I was just going to ask, how does that make the people around you feel? Are they like, oh yeah, whatever, that's just how they communicate?
So we don't yell on top of our lungs.
Yeah, no, we just more.
You guys are passionate. You're high eyes, so that's
yes.
like a thing.
Yeah.
So it might be, listen, Kate, I understand you're doing this, but this is I don't agree with you. And she'll say, well, how do you want to handle this? You're not in this office at most of the times. And I say, well, that doesn't mean that I'm not involved. And like, we'll say things and do things in that context. But we sometimes will take a break, and she'll like say, I don't want to talk to you about this. We'll talk about this later. Can we take it outside? Can we talk about it in the evening? Sometimes it's just not talking financials, or giving a split structure to someone, which is not appropriate talking to the office. We may just leave it for future, but it's challenging at times. How do you manage that relationship? Because I was one of the first people with Ben who started the company, and Kate came in late. So many times my thought process was, well, I started the company, it's my decision, and it was not the right process, or not the right way of handling the situation. And I think that I had to change over a period of time, that I'm not the ultimate authority, and I have to sometimes accept Kate as the ultimate authority. And that took me a lot of time to accept. And we still have challenges on this at times, even now, of those conversations. As early as yesterday, with this whole stimulus package and COVID-19, all that programs that we're applying for, I just expected Kate to know everything because she's an owner. And she said, well, I'm relying on you for the expertise because you are better in that context, and you should be doing your side of the job. But it's not predefined. We didn't define our job responsibility. Who's going to be handling the stimulus package in our relationship of work division? So we had a little, me, Ben, and Kate were on a phone together, and we let our heart out to each other, and then we all laughed and we said, "Love you" to each other, all three of us, and we said, "Okay, we'll take care of it." So it's I think the bottom line is, don't let your ego come in between. It's very easy to get away with having your ego in between. It's my way or the highway, and that relationship will never work. Just because you own a different percentage of equity, or you have started the company, or you're the director of operations, you have to rely on that person for what they're good at, and you never know till tough times how they're going to be reacting in the situation. So I'm learning that a lot in this, from all my partners at this point.
What have you guys learned you guys are in are you guys the only state or one of the few states where real estate is non-essential right now? What have you guys learned through this last couple of months of coronavirus about leadership and communication? Like, where have you excelled? Where have you been challenged?
I think the most important thing being a leader right now is to just be present, to be there to support everyone on the team and to motivate them and keep them going, and make sure that they continue to see the vision and not lose hope, because this is a temporary state, and it will be over, and it'll be over very soon. And at that time, things will resume and go back to normal, and business will be better than ever. And you really have to get that point across to them and keep them going, because it's easy to get depressed or to lose hope and get distracted. And also to take this time and pretend that you're on a vacation when you should not be.
Yeah, right.
I think the accountability meter has gone up at this point. People are looking for different kind of guidance and leadership from the same team that you're involved with. So it's important that just like Kate said, we have a Zoom call in the morning, we have a Zoom call in the evening, we have a happy hour for the whole team, standing happy hour every day that somebody else in our team have organized. We have a standing prospecting Zoom call with another agent in our team has been doing. We have training classes that some of the other agents are doing. We have created some competition within the team that is going to be launched. We have our team meetings via Zoom. So it's a lot that is going on, but that I think there's going to be a new phrase soon that I'm zoomed out.
Yeah.
It's just so many Zoom calls, all day, every day, because you can't just go by somebody in the office and say, I have a quick question for you. You have to pick up the phone and call, set up a time. You can't just wait outside for 2 minutes because I don't know what they're doing. So you have to set up a time. It's a Zoom call. I want to see you face to face. It's much more time draining now than it was before. So I think most of us who are interested in actually working and not want to hide behind a desk are working more hours than they ever did before. So it's more challenging right now. And people want to, as leaders, it's our responsibility to tell them what we feel. If we feel it's going to be scary times, explain them why, and also create a solution of what can you do to make sure you don't end up that way. So I have to do more research. Kate and I talk about different things we can do for our team, but you have to hold them accountable, and that requires our whole team to step in. So this every single thing that we had in the past of systems and processes and procedures, they all have to be changed within 2 weeks. Or actually, it got changed within 48 hours of us doing shelter in place. So that is really challenging for all of us. And those systems and processes change, but our team is holding tight. They get to see each other, they ask questions. A lot of masterminding is happening. So I think we're going to come out of this stronger. And last thing I'm going to say is that don't forget, this is not an economic shift because the market was going down. This shift happened because of medical reasons. So we are going through economic change or economic shift because of medical reasons. So our market was doing great. Stock market was doing great. We had the best, probably we were in line to do the best 2020 ever in our careers, or the best year. It just stopped. And we're all waiting to see how that will show up right when we open up. It might go back up the same way or maybe higher, but that's something to see. So you have to have the hope high. And there's no reason to believe that we'll be going down a big depression, if we continue doing certain things that could bring us back.
What I loved about what you just shared at the beginning of that was all the different things that your team has taken charge of and is doing. I think that's such an amazing tribute to your leadership that you have other leaders within your organization stepping up to also lead with you.
Our team has been excellent throughout this entire time. Everyone is supporting each other with humor. They're calling one another. Everyone's participating in all of the classes, the Zoom calls. We have people setting up their own classes, their own happy hours. It's great. And without them, it would have been a lot harder for both Gaurav and I.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, Kate, is, what something I love about Gaurav and something I've always really liked, I feel like he's a very open person and he allows vulnerability in his leadership. I think a lot of people would say that. I love that, he was saying if there's going to be dark times, like we're going to talk about that. How do you handle that as a leader next to him that sometimes is really just open and honest?
I'm fine with that. I'm very open, honest personality. Yeah. I'm very, very straightforward. Sometimes Gaurav thinks I'm like much too straightforward and too blunt.
You're the one that's more straight and he's cleaning up after you sometimes, huh?
Yeah.
She will look at me eating a sandwich and she'll just look at me and say, bread and fried, you're gonna die. and like there's no sugarcoating to that. She's that direct. She just look at people and say, yeah, you're gonna die. And it's like, I may not get a heart attack and be in a wheelchair. She's like, no, they'll be lucky. You're gonna die. So what's the answer? You need to stop doing this and go exercise. Like she's like so direct in her approach at times that it's scary.
Well, sometimes people, you don't want to sugarcoat everything for everyone. Everyone's sugarcoating everything all the time for everyone. You have to be careful. And sometimes it's easy to just politely say what needs to be said in a nice, easy fashion so no one's confused.
Directness is very important. And I think that's something I've learned in my years of leadership too, is, I could beat around the bush and make people feel good, or I could just say, I'm not happy. This is why. I can't wait to fix it.
Yep. And I appreciate when people are like that with me. I don't like when people approach me and they dance around the subject and it takes them like 10 minutes to get to it. I'm just like, just tell me, please.
Linzee, I'm pretty sure Kate is a DC. You're not.
I would tell you that that's what she is because I worked with her for a little bit. Well, and you know what I love is Morgan's on there saying, you know, our mom and dad fighting again. I love it. So your team's watching and supporting you guys. Well, walk us through. So, you know, how has your relationship grown and changed, like from when you guys went into business together in the beginning? And we heard some of like, you know, how you guys have grown together, but walk us through, like, how did you feel about each other and how have you seen each other grow into the leaders that you are? So, I mean, you guys have started multiple other companies, like Kate, you're heavily involved in those. What did that path look like in really gaining the trust?
With Gaurav, again, I think the biggest hurdle was it started out him micromanaging everything and needing to be in control of everything. And then, but then letting go a little bit and trusting me and allowing me to grow. And he has been an excellent teacher. I mean, without him, honestly, of all the fighting that we do and the nitpicking that we do at one another, he has been an excellent teacher and one of the biggest motivators in my career and one of the reasons that I've advanced so far.
Well, and Gaurav, like, what would have made you bring, you know, Kate into business as a partner? Like, what things did you need to see in her that would allow you to do something like that?
You know, I have a philosophy that let's say there are about 8 billion people in this world, and we're all competing for something. And how do you work harder than them? So there's only two ways of doing it. Either you outwork them or you outsmart them. I always feel I'm going to do both. So, you know, it's and I'm not going to pick one of them. I'm going to do everything that it takes to be the best that I can be. So then for us to be able to do that, you have to leverage, delegate, build a team, surround yourself with smart people, surround yourself with people who have the same vision or believe in your vision. And, you know, Ben, who's my business partner, has made me a better leader than I was before. And he's made me see a much bigger picture in life. And him and I have a very unique relationship as well. But you know, I guess I just fight with everybody. So you know, but you know, he made me think much bigger than I was thinking. So there are few things that I wanted in my career for myself that I wasn't going to compromise. My work ethic is probably the biggest thing that I value in my life. That's something that I've been brought up with for my family. Integrity is very big. I know many people use that word very loosely, but I strongly believe in it. And then the compassion that I have with my team, because, you know, team is my family, you know, is a big component of me being part of this organization. And one thing I do lack at times is discipline. So, you know, when I started working with Kate, you know, the work ethic, the integrity, the compassion, and then she had much more discipline than I did. So I looked at those things in Kate, and I realized that it's a great match for things that I like to do. And then she complements a few things that I'm not good at. But if we work together, good people can be taught to do anything. But if the work ethic and discipline and integrity is not there, then it doesn't matter how good they are in a role, it will never work out. So I continued investing time into Kate as a partner because I felt that she has the base and the structure was, the foundation was so strong that if built upon it, I think it's going to be a long-term relationship. So that's what I saw in Kate over a period of time, and it just continued, and we just kept you know, building this great companies together that we are still learning from each other and continuing to grow.
So Gaurav, you have your work ethic. Let's talk about that for a second, because the first time I ever met you, you had 2 cell phones and I was like, what's happening there? And he was like, I need them both. And I was like, oh, what? Yeah. I was like, well, we're going to help you fix that. But Kate, you know, when you watch this man work, and I mean, we know right now he's working around the clock, right? We can talk about that. But when you started to watch him work, was that something that you matched his intensity right away? Or is that something you grew into?
No, I matched his intensity. That was one of the first things that I really admired about Gaurav, was his work ethic and how hard he worked, because I'm of the same mindset. I work just as hard. So if I see someone, and I don't care what you're doing or where, if I see anyone working really hard trying to achieve something, I'll be right there to help you, to support you, to help you achieve that goal. So
boundaries, did you guys ever draw them, or are there any? What does that look like?
I don't like those boundaries, and Kate keep pushing me back. So
that's because I worked really hard he wants to work hard forever. He's going to be like 90 and you're like, but what are you working for? You have to be working for something. You got to like slowly dial it back a little bit. Like, that's why.
So Kate, so one thing that Kate and I still fight and don't agree on things is, I don't think she's glued to her phone like I am. Mm-hmm. So I think that's one thing that, is something that I am. And I feel that we are, as leaders, sometimes put ourselves in a position, and I understand that you have to have family time and you have to put the phone on the side. And I do understand those things. But that's a challenge that me and Kate always have is, I send you an email or I texted you and you didn't respond back to me within 30 minutes. And she's like, well, I went for a run. I said, then take your phone or have an iWatch. Say, well, I'm not going to check my message when I'm going to run. I was like, well, what if it was important? And I said, well, it can wait. I was like, what if it was a do or die situation? And there was a transaction that somebody was at the settlement table and wanted a question. I was like, well, then they're going to call this person. So we always argue about not being constantly available 24/7. So I understand that it's not a great expectation, but that leads into every single small thing. You didn't check the email, you didn't respond back. And she has a better work-life balance than I do. So she's helping me with that. And I'm trying to push her a little bit to accommodate my requests as well. I
love that you guys are 6 years into this relationship and having that struggle that I see on almost every team I coach. Yeah. That's fascinating. Kate, you draw those boundaries. You've drawn the boundaries that you want.
Yeah, I feel like the way he presents it, he acts like I'm like not answering emails or calling people back for like 4 or 5 hours. Like, I'll go for a run in the morning or I'll take a shower or I'll eat dinner. But it's like 3 hours a day I'm not available, and when I'm sleeping. But all the other times I'm always available. But in comparison to how he's available, yes, I can never live up to that.
He is massively available. What I love is that, Gaurav, you're like, I don't like that. I need availability. And you know what? The worst thing that we see, I think, are leaders that are like, no, we have boundaries, I'm fine. But they totally will send something and be like sitting there like, where's my response? What's going on? And then there's this like harbor of like anger. But you guys talk about everything, which I love.
There's a balance that I think I can probably be tested for being a workaholic, and I think I have that in me. And it's hard for me. It's I'm an addict for work, and it's hard for me to realize how big of an addict I am. I get great passion by working. Like, I can do this all day, and being at home has been the worst. Because I have just been working no less than 14 hours, 15 hours a day, no less. If it's maybe 17, 18 hours now. So it's just so much to do and so much responsibilities that you have. But it becomes a challenge expecting the same thing from somebody else. So there's a challenge that, when I talked about, I want to outwork and outsmart is my way of doing it. And since I have been living my life and my career from day one with that same philosophy, I fear that if I stop doing it, I may actually lose what I have. And that's the only way I have seen this happen. So I keep telling somebody around me, like, you have to do these things to achieve, because if you invite me to a podcast or you ask me how this happened, well, that's how it happened. I've worked very hard. And I worked with integrity and honesty. It helped me every step of the way. So knowing what I did and it worked, why don't you just follow the same footsteps? And they're like, well, you're crazy. You're a workaholic. It's like, no, but I'm not, because I don't want to accept it. So that's the challenge that I have with people around me. I really push them a lot, but I do that not to make more money, but I do that because I want them to be the best that they can be. And this is the only way that I can teach them, is because this is who I am and what I know. So, somebody told me, he says, there's only 2 ways that people like you, Gaurav. Either they hate you so much and they'll leave you, or they love you so much that they'll stay with you forever. There's no in between with me, because I'm a little bit of extreme in everything. I love you to death. I'll work myself to death. I'm going to make you work the hardest you can be. It's not a compromise. I don't like a B-level effort. I don't want to be a B-level, I don't want to work and be a B-level person in life. I don't want to give a B-level things to my family. I don't want to give a B-level something in my team. Like, I want to be A-level in everything. And so I keep pushing everybody around me the same way. So Kate has really changed a lot over the years. And I think the others, and my friend who went to take care of the elephants, I think he probably got tired of me and says, better take care of the elephants than work with you.
That's a pretty strong statement.
They are calmer to some extent.
I am tough to deal with and work with, because I don't take B-level effort as an acceptable form.
So I wanted to ask you, you talked earlier about, you used a word that I don't think on any of our podcasts anybody has said as a value, and that was compassion. What does compassion mean to you? What does that look like in a business setting on your team and with your businesses?
Question from me or Kate?
Either one of you.
Yeah, Kate, why don't you start?
I think when he says compassion, he means emotional intelligence, to be able to understand. I think it's a key component of actually being in this business or being successful in any business and in life, is to be able to understand other people's perspectives, put yourselves in their shoes, see where they're coming from, assess what kind of personality they have, so you know how to approach them, so you're not upsetting them off the bat. So I think that's what that you should always be treating them the way that you want to be treated. And if they're going through tough times, support them.
That's exactly what I was thinking as well. You know, so the way I look at the team and everybody who works in our organization, irrespective of the age, I look at them as my, relatively speaking, as my brother, sister, or my kids, right? So I look at everybody in that scenario, and I always think, and I analyze every situation that they do as, my daughter who's 6 years old does not know what she doesn't know. And if I do know more, is it my position to be compassionate about her ignorance? While she's not a bad person, she's trying to do the best that she can, but she needs help. Same thing with my younger brother or sister. At the age of 16, they may say or do things which is not the best. So how do I react? So unless I can think about the family in every way. So I'm very forgiving that way. And then till the time you really are doing it because that's the kind of person you are, I will give them a benefit of doubt. And that's how I care for each one of them. Somebody calls me, I feel like I'm that older brother, or I'm the dad, where my daughter is calling me. How can I not pick up the phone? So that's why I'm like stuck to the phone. And my wife always says the same thing. She's like, a phone rings and you pick up. I was like, they need me. And I said, well, they don't need you all the time. I was like, but what if this was an emergency? They needed me. I need to answer. So I'm working through that in my, in different steps, and I can have other people help me. But unless you're compassionate about your team and your family, you cannot call your team a family if you don't really, really care about them. And compassion comes in not because of money, right? So while you're running a business and we talk about profitability, money will come if you can create opportunities for everybody around you, and there's a win-win. Money will come in as a byproduct, but you have to keep an eye on it. So unless you're compassionate and everything is about money, you miss the whole picture.
Let me ask you this. Do you have a hard time parting ways with people? Because a lot of times what I get asked a lot when there's somebody who's as passionate as you are about seeing the best in somebody and figuring it out, they have a hard time sometimes parting ways.
Is the worst. I am the worst. I would never let go. I would not let go anybody in my team ever if I didn't have to.
Sometimes you have to, and I have to be that person in his ear that sometimes some people are not good for your team. They're not good for you. They're just, you can try your best, but they're never going to be a good fit, and you have to let them go. It's admirable that you want to help them, but
I think that's one thing I've learned from Kate. And I'll push her in the front at times. Like, well, then you go and have the conversation, because I don't know how to ask them to leave. I would do anything to keep everybody in the team. I would, and I agree with Kate that there's certain times I made a wrong decision, and actually we have held on to people in the team because I fought with Kate and I overrode her decision, and she gave up on me, and she accepted it. She says it's fine. I don't agree with the decision, and we had some really good agents in our team who left because we allowed to have that kind of person in a leadership role. So I'm learning through that mistake now, and I appreciate Kate being helpful in that, making the decision that, it's better to let people go. It might be good for them as well, because if we are not happy with them, they're definitely not happy with us. And we are both trying to find a way to go away. And if they have the same compassion like me, and, or they might just be in a better position of making money from us and they are here for the opportunity, not because of the people. I have a tough time. And Kate is better at it. I wouldn't say she's, a hardcore cold person in doing it. She has her own challenges, but I think she's much more better at making those decisions than I am.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Well, Kate, so, can we talk a little bit about, when you came to him and you had a solution and you say, hey, I think we need to do this, and he doesn't listen to you. Obviously, you guys have learned from it now. But has situations like that made you think, okay, do I need to push harder? Or like how, what does that look like?
I will usually push and push and push because I don't give up very easily. So that's why we bang heads a lot, because we so, but then it'll get to a point where he kind of just puts me in my place, I'm going to say, and I say, fine, I wash my hands of this. Whatever happens is your fault. And then if there was a problem, I would say, Gaurav, can you handle this?
Because he took it back, right? He took that. He essentially is taking it back. We hear about that all the time.
Can I tell you one thing, Lindsay? There was a time we had a team meeting, and my goal with Kate was to continue pushing her. And as I told you, this is her first live podcast in her life. And I'm very thrilled that, you gave her the opportunity, gave us the opportunity of doing this. She would never do a Zoom call or FaceTime ever. Until this 2 weeks ago, I have never seen her on a phone, on a Zoom call or FaceTime. I might be traveling across the country and I might call her and say, can you please FaceTime with me so I can show you on the screen, or a Zoom call? Never did it. The world could die, I'd never do it. So one time we had a team meeting and I wanted her to make her comfortable being uncomfortable. So I took the opportunity and I said, today you're going to conduct the team meeting. And she said, no. I said, no, you will. So I stood up from the meeting and I said, be prepared. And without her approval, I said, today Kate will be doing the team meeting. I turn around, she walks out. She walks out of the team meeting.
That's awesome.
I do not do well in front of crowds, and I don't think that was very nice. I don't like when people push me to do things that I did not agree to do. That's the other thing.
Oh my God. And we had the worst fight ever. And I said, and the way I looked at it was, well, you walked out on your team.
Yeah.
And she said, well, you put me in a very uncomfortable position. It's my team. I can react that way because it's my team. And I said, no, as a leader, you cannot walk out of any situation. You're supposed to handle the situation and stand up for whatever is being dealt to you. So I looked at her as a weak leader at that time. And I started doubting myself at that moment that maybe she's not the right person, because given a tough circumstance, she'll walk out of a situation. And I said, well, that's not acceptable to me. So I had a really harsh conversation with her, and she responded back by, well, you don't understand and you're not compassionate about other people's feelings. There is a way and style of doing it, and you put me in a very bad position, which I'm not ready for. If you would have told me in advance, like this Zoom call, it's okay, but you put me in a bad position. And so I was going in my own way, and then we started talking different things, and she quit. She left the company, and she didn't talk to any one of us for 3 days. This is as early as like 9 months ago. For 3 days. And we really thought she actually quit.
Wow.
Because I'd never seen her missing for 3 days. And then me and Ben, and I told Ben what happened, and he says, you're an idiot, and then, and so what happened? And then I told Ben, I said, Ben, I still feel that she may not be the right leader. And if this is the way she's going to react and walk out of the company for 3 days, well, then she feels she can walk out of the company anytime. And I'm ready to invest in somebody else at this point, and she's not the right person. So then, you calm down and you let your ego
You're
and your
beginning to mention the horrible, horrible and rude things that he said to me that I had to sit and mull over and be like, do I really, really think of me? And
Thank you for being real.
And I would never abandon my team for anything. It was a team meeting and you were there. So in any other case, and I find that insulting, I would never leave them for anything.
That's correct. I think when I understood her side of the story and her side, I understood where she was coming from, and I had my own ways of doing it. So I think it was an issue on the way that we were looking at each other as partners.
How did you guys bridge the gap back together again? Because that's a pretty large divide.
That's a wide gap.
3 days is a long time.
I don't think
when I first heard the story, my first reaction was there was a lack of respect from Gaurav on how he handled it with you, Kate. That's what came to my mind. I don't know if you felt that way or not, but how did you bridge that back?
I think
exactly how I felt.
I think that was the case.
I think that's why it turned into a huge argument. And that's why it went to that extreme, because it went from something simple as me being, being afraid to go and speak in front of people into turning into him questioning me and my work ethic and my dedication to the team. And it just turned into a bigger, much deeper, more hurtful argument that needed to be talked through and resolved.
To bridge the way back. What did that look like?
Communication. And at one point, once we decided to talk to each other again, and we picked up the phone and spoke to each other, and Ben was there, and we realized that we understood her side of the story, and I acknowledged that yes, my way was the wrong way, and I apologized. I said, that you're right. I overreacted, and I went with my thought process, the way I will work. I would probably never walk out of that situation because it's just the way I work, but that is not the right way necessarily. Everybody has it. So you have to go back to the fundamentals and say, do I want to be in business with this person? And is everything worth fighting for? And there might be few things that you may or may not like, and not necessarily, because they were my way. It could have been, okay, fine, even if I was right. And I think in this situation, I was wrong. And I had to apologize because there's a way of handling being a leader and being a partner. And if you cross that line, I think it's disrespect.